Hello, everyone. I'm Felix Nogales, President and CEO of the National Hispanic Media Coalition. I was disappointed to read Felix Sanchez's misguided August 8 op-ed, which vacantly repeats AT&T talking points to suggest that vast consolidation in the cell phone marketplace would somehow benefit the Latino community. He attempts to rebut my explanation of the danger of two phone companies owning nearly 80% of the cell phone market. Both AT&T and Verizon have a history of raising prices in concert. And so I leave it up to you. Wouldn't you conclude that this acquisition is dangerous to the consumer? Prices would rise. Who are we kidding? More than half of Sanchez's article focuses on naming various Latino-serving organizations that have come out in support of AT&T. But some of these organizations, Sanchez's group included, have absolutely no expertise on telecommunication issues and no capacity to research and independently substantiate the claims that AT&T has been making in its ongoing onslaught of outreach to these groups. Before NHMC came out to oppose the acquisition, I experienced firsthand the powerful AT&T lobbying arm and can understand how groups could become persuaded after endless outreach with AT&T spin and one-sided data. Fortunately, NHMC has a team of media and telecommunication policy attorneys that is tasked with researching exactly these issues. My team and I were able to dig through the entire universe of facts, and believe me, it was a huge universe, to determine that this acquisition would harm Latinos more than help them. At any rate, lots of groups supporting and opposing the acquisition are somewhat irrelevant, as the Federal Communications Commission and the Department of Justice press on with their investigations of whether to allow this consolidation to occur. The FCC evaluates whether the acquisition, on balance, would be in the public interest. The DOJ, on the other hand, examines whether it poses antitrust or anti-competitive concerns. NHMC has demonstrated that the supposed public interest benefits of this acquisition are heavily outweighed by the harms that all Americans, and particularly American Latinos, would face. Namely, NHMC has shown that the acquisition would eliminate an important competitor in T-Mobile, driving up prices, diminishing choices, and leading to layoffs. Sanchez suggests that we have no support for these claims, but NHMC's comprehensive petition to deny the acquisition filed at the FCC is loaded with studies, facts, and information to substantiate and authenticate our stances. Sanchez's attempts at substantive rebuttal are out and out inaccurate. First, this acquisition would not shrink the digital divide. Ironically, AT&T had already stated that it would deploy 4G services to 97% of the country before this acquisition was announced. But now they are saying that they will do this only if the acquisition is approved. Talk about hostage. Verizon has plans to do the same without a quid pro quo from the government regulators. And while I look forward to greater 4G penetration, cell phones are not viable substitutes for home broadband connections and are not some silver bullet to digital equality. As advanced as cell phones are today, they still cannot support the same opportunities for our families to access job applications, financial aid opportunities, and other online services that we need to survive and thrive. Next, this acquisition will not lead to lower prices. It doesn't take, ladies and gentlemen, a rocket scientist to understand that less competition equals higher prices. And AT&T and Verizon controlling 80% of the market could not be good for consumers, no matter who their provider is. This is another instance where AT&T uses one-sided data that doesn't tell the whole story. The truth is that cell phone bills have increased in this era of consolidation. Even as the carriers' operation costs have dropped, it still has happened. The notion that AT&T would honor T-Mobile contracts is fatuous and provides no solace for T-Mobile customers. The minute that T-Mobile customers alter their contracts or buy new phones, they would be subject to AT&T's higher prices, and AT&T has already admitted that T-Mobile customers that use 3G service would have to upgrade their phones, necessarily forcing them to opt for higher prices. Finally, jobs. I've been around, and you've been around long enough to know that mergers lead to workforce reductions. Any arguments to the contrary are nonsensical. Indeed, AT&T has conceded that it would consolidate retail stores and billing systems. Should this acquisition be approved, I don't understand why an organization or even an individual that represents the Latino community wouldn't be more concerned about this, or at least be asking serious questions of AT&T before becoming its cheerleader. AT&T has shed over 100,000 jobs in the last decade, even as its profits have continued to grow. Why should it do anything different now, especially as it would find itself with tens of thousands of duplicative employees? Should this acquisition be approved, there are a lot of very smart people at AT&T that have figured out ways to make this acquisition sound like a good deal for everyone. But if you look closely, you will find that something that should come as no surprise, that AT&T is not a neutral provider of the facts, and that you must look beyond its spin to determine the truth. After careful review of all facts and perspectives, I assure you, this acquisition would be a disaster for consumers, most particularly for the Latino consumer.